breezy and quite fast.
I think that hair is brilliant colour.
Alright.
That's a terrible sentence and I apologise for the
Which hair? This
conjugation.
If you actually overbeat a cheese cream frosting, it'll go runny and you'll... What have I said?
Do you know the funny thing about the whole cream cheese thing? I have to say it over and over in my head too now.
So the next thing we're going to do is to make the cheese cream... Oh, I can't say it!
Cheese cream cheese. It still seems right to me.
It seems right to me.
So I get it.
Cream cheese. Cream cheese.
Okay, here we go.
What's a wrap?
It's time for the wrap party.
Do I look like an advert for a flower shop? Do we get to rap like
yes.
like RM
I'll give
from
you a beat.
BTS? No, I can't do it. They don't rap like that.
Welcome everybody to the Bakery Bears video show, episode 157, featuring the grand finale of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club. I cannot believe this is the earliest we've ever hit the finale.
Is it?
We're normally hitting the finale October.
Right.
And this is, of course...
It's like the Bake Off.
I know. Oh, great news. Great news, everybody.
Yes.
The filming for the Great British Bake Off has wrapped.
Yes.
So we can all look forward. I've got to say, for the first time ever, I mean, I did quite like it.
Originally.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I liked it originally.
And so did I.
Yeah.
With Mel and Sue.
Mel and Sue.
On
Brilliant.
the BBC.
Yeah, on the BBC.
All worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And then...
It all went wrong.
For me... I think they just got the presenting team wrong.
Yeah, me too.
And now the presenting team makes all the sense in the world.
I haven't seen it yet, obviously, but...
No, of course, it could all go disastrously wrong.
But we've got great hopes.
Huge, massive hopes that it could be tremendous. So here's looking forward to that. But the grand finale of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club, and it's just wonderful. What we look for... in a pudding, we speak about this. I made a proclamation, didn't I, in the kitchen?
You?
Was it yesterday?
Was that?
Or the day before?
You made a proclamation in the kitchen?
I did. I put down my little block.
I wish I'd remembered that.
I wish people still did that.
Making proclamations.
It must have been so great being the town crier. You walk down the square.
Oh, they do still have town criers. But it's more of a ceremonial thing, isn't it? It's not... Yeah.
You'd walk down, the town square with your little block, you'd pop it down, you'd get on it, and you'd start telling people the news.
Is that where the getting on your soapbox came from?
I don't know, but
maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe.
I'm interested now. But yes, it's the grand finale of the Pudding Club, and what Kay has done is she's combined two things which she and I love, but she's also done it in a way which we approve of, which is it's not very rich.
It's not rich. No, it's not rich, not heavy.
The cakes which I love now, and actually that is going to bring me on to something else in a minute. Because of my cancer battle scars, rich things don't agree with me. And actually, they don't really agree with you, either.
No. We both suffer from IBS for different reasons. Dan because he's had his stomach removed and put back in, like you do.
It's fun.
And me just because I always have. Yeah, occasionally suffer from bouts of it. Yeah.
And so if you can produce a cake which you aren't still remembering the day after for all the wrong reasons. Yes, I want to remember a cake the day after for all the right reasons.
Yes.
And these you do. And you actually pronounced yesterday.
Did I pronounced? We're doing proclamations and pronouncing.
We are.
We're very grand.
Because you said, my goodness, there's only 3 left.
I know.
And that was from 2 batches.
2 batches. And I've actually only had, I think I've had 2 of them, so I've done pretty well.
Stop everything, because I think, now, and I know it's tempting fate, and I don't care, because the trees are browning, the leaves are dropping, and I'm saying, hello, autumn.
We're nearly into September, aren't we? And I've just got back from a walk. Oh, it was like heaven. It's cool and breezy. and I could wear a little denim jacket, and I marched around really quick
because of course you weren't
because
overeating.
I wasn't boiling, and my miles have really dropped over the summer.
Because it's been insane.
Month or two, because it's just been so warm.
The heat has been bananas, like to the level of
a couple of weeks ago.
we have never experienced anything like it.
It was dreadful.
Pushing into the 30s.
Yeah,
just nuts. And on
it's
a
just
night
not
too,
normal for England
no.
to have summers in the 30s.
And those storms.
And the storms.
We saw storms unlike any we have ever seen. So
Never ever. It went on literally for hours and hours.
And this is the reason why I'm saying, and I don't care what anyone says about Indian summers, I'm saying hello autumn.
We're not acknowledging the fact that we could get an Indian summer. It's great, it's cool.
I look forward on the weather app, and when I see anything below 15, I've got to admit I do get rather excited.
Yeah, we're very happy, aren't we?
And why are we excited? Because this is knitters weather.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I do know a lot of knitters. Their kind of productivity drops during the summer. In the northern hemisphere, this is, and I suppose in the summer in the southern hemisphere as well.
Yeah.
Whenever your summer is, just because it's unpleasant, isn't it? If you're knitting garments and things like that, having that. All that stuff on your knee when it's really hot, and even working with wool when it's really hot.
You don't want it.
It's just too much, isn't it?
Neil, we must just say we've had lots of messages over the last few weeks from lots of new viewers.
Yes.
And actually that comes off the back of, we've no idea why, but the last 2 episodes have been our most popular ever. So, of course, everyone is welcome, and it's wonderful to see you all, but we'd just like to say a specific hello and welcome to all those new viewers.
Absolutely.
It's always so lovely to hear from new people.
It is.
And we've got 2 there's one sort of official place where you can come and introduce yourself, and that is, of course, the Welcome to the Bakery thread in our Ravelry group. Yeah. But also, though, if you just want to drop us a line and say hello, you can do that on our website on the contact page.
Yes.
And I'll link that in the show notes below, just in case anyone is now feeling inspired to come and say hello as well.
Please do. We love hearing from people, and come and say hi and
tell us where you're from.
Yeah, tell us where you're from, what you like to knit.
Yeah.
Anything you like, anything you'd like to tell us about you.
So thank you all so much. You are very, very welcome.
You are.
And like I said a moment ago, it's particularly exciting because we have returned from our 3-week sojourn. Yes, it's been 3 weeks.
Sojourn?
I know, I'm using all sorts of SOJOURN.
I've heard the word.
Yes.
What does it mean again?
It means when you go off. I took a sojourn out into the wilderness.
Oh, right. Did you?
I did.
Oh.
In the last episode of Walking the Dales.
Ah, yes.
You know you're getting old when you don't know anything about... I was listening to something the other day, or I was watching something. I think it was a video. It was one of these videos where... I mean, how weird is this? But then it was also strangely interesting. It was like a slow-mo timeline of a graph. How boring. Showing the world's top-selling artists.
Oh, right.
Starting way back in like the 60s. So it's like there was the Beatles and then Led Zeppelin and then all these different... It was global. And all these different... And then it got into the more recent years.
Not a clue.
Now, I don't know if he's still one of the... Well, I think he is one of the world's top-selling artists. I'm going to say a name to you, and please do tell me if you've heard of him. Drake.
Drake?
Yes.
No.
Not a clue.
Not a clue.
I mean, and I felt slightly ashamed. I need to go away and...
What kind of artist? Is it a man? I'm presuming it's a man.
I think it's a Canadian rapper.
A Canadian rapper?
Or it might be hip-hop.
Oh, right, okay. I'm not greatly into hip-hop, am I?
But we're open.
Or rapping.
We're open to listening to anything, so I think we owe it to ourselves to go away
and find some Drake.
Yes.
Okay.
And have a little listen. But the reason why I brought this all up is I don't know if... We've certainly mentioned before on the show, our teenage daughter loves a band called BTS.
Ask me a question about BTS. Ask me anything. I will know.
Sadly, us trying to tell you what BTS stands for...
Oh, no.
Don't ask us that.
Bangtan something. Oh, I don't know.
It's... Look, you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah.
But they released, for the first time they've released a song that's completely in English because they're from Korea.
Yeah, they're a K-pop band,
Yes,
if you don't know.
Worships them.
The K being Korean.
Yes.
Korean pop.
Yes.
And Bryony, literally, from the minute she wakes up to the minute she goes to sleep, if we pass through a 5-minute period where she's not mentioned them, we've done well.
I'm guessing there's probably some viewers out there who probably felt the same way about the Beatles back in the day.
Yeah, maybe
and then
so.
Moving forward in time, there'll be lots of other bands that, you know, you will have been right at that sort of key moment. Yeah. And for you, it was probably Duran Duran?
Duran Duran, yeah. I mean, I love them, but I didn't talk to my parents incessantly about them. I'm pretty sure I didn't. But it's a different world, isn't it? It's a different world where you're getting this kind of
24/7.
information all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing live things and then something else is going on and they've just put this out and they've just done this. So it just wasn't like that back in the 80s.
Now, the reason why I brought this up is twofold. First of all, they've just released a song called Dynamite.
They have.
And it's actually really sort of
brilliant.
Cool. It's a lovely video. It's really well put together. It makes you smile.
It does.
It's got an awful lot of callbacks to lots of different things through the 80s and the 90s. Yeah. But the song is sort of uplifting.
It's poppy and it's just fun. It's great fun and the video is great fun. And you know.
So I'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean,
so
go and have a watch. It is real good fun. And like Dan said, it's the first time they've done a single in English. So it's a huge thing.
What was also clever with it was, you see, they could have released one of their older songs in English.
They could have, yeah.
But it still would have been constructed in an Eastern style.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only have they written this song in English, they've also constructed the song in a more Western way.
Definitely.
And they also, which really I thought was cool, was they stuck in a key change.
Yeah.
And if you remember the sort of power ballads, Celine Dion power ballads from the 90s, and Michael McDonald songs as well, you know, so many of these songs from the 80s and 90s, they always had in a key change. And that's what this song is celebrating. It's celebrating all the sort of cool things from that era. So it's so clever that they stuck that in. Very cool, very happy.
And it broke records on YouTube for the most viewed music video within 24 hours, and it got almost 100 million views.
Amazing. Neil, the other reason why I brought this up was, look...
Oh, this was so funny.
For the last few months, we've been hearing a lot about BTS. And when you take that, it's a three-letter name, and you sort of push it into your head constantly, every minute, every hour through the day. This was surely going to happen. The moment something came up that also has, three, I forget what you call it, but it's three short, something similar.
It's not an acronym, is it?
You know what I mean? That BTS, anything with three letters in it. This was likely to happen. Now, we mentioned at the top of the show that both Kay and I suffer with IBS, and I happened to bring that up the other day, but instead of saying IBS, the sentence should have read, I've had a really bad bout of IBS. But that's not what I said. I said, I've had a really terrible bout of BTS.
It's so funny. And Bryony wasn't in the room when he said it, and I was really mad that she wasn't, but we just both looked at each other and just burst out laughing. It was so funny. And I said, I've been having a bout of BTS for the past year.
Yes.
It was really funny. We told Bryony, she thought it was hilarious.
It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
Neil, look, before we move on, I want to get to the bottom of a mystery, and that is, how is it impossible to take a passport photograph without looking like a criminal or a lunatic?
This is another funny thing. Well, Bryony's hopefully, fingers crossed, going on a school trip next year in the spring to Italy. And she needed a new passport. Hers was a baby one, and I've just never renewed it because we just don't go abroad. And ours had also expired because we don't go abroad. So I thought, right, you know what, let's just do all three. So we had to take photos. You can do it all online now. You can do your passport application online, and you could never do that when I've applied for them previously. So I said, right, okay, let's do this. I said, but we've got to take photos. So I said, oh, you can do that. And I gave Dan all the instructions from the website, and it can't be like this, and it can't be like that, and you can't do this. So we found a place in the house.
So we took them, and I won't...
They were they're just awful.
Well,
they're absolutely awful.
I'm sure everyone would love to see mine. Look at that. Most wanted.
But there was worse because the first time we took it, you had a T-shirt on it with a stain on the T-shirt. Because he was just in the house, he had an old T-shirt on. And it got this big stain here. I said, oh my gosh, you literally look like you've come off the streets or something.
Then the first photo we took of Bryony, she had on this T-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And
she had a BTS T-shirt on.
Yeah, it says single.
There's like 3 boxes and it says single, something else. And then the third box is mentally dating Kim Tae-young, who's a favourite BTS member. But all you could see was the one that said single, like this. And I said, right, okay.
Of course, Bryony thought it was fine, but I said,
she's like, what's wrong with that? I said, we can't have that on your passport photo for the next 10 years.
On your passport photograph.
Go and get changed.
So we took another one. I mean, what a joke.
It honestly took us like 2 hours or something to take these photos.
And you look back through, my original passport photograph you've ridiculed for years. And
I've got that photo in my wallet.
Right.
I've got an extra one in my wallet. I think it's a nice photo.
I thought you ridiculed it.
Oh, no, it's not that photo.
No, I was going to say.
It's a different one when you're like 20 or something.
Yeah, but also the photograph on your passport.
My existing one it's pretty bad.
It looks like a picture of Bonnie from Bonnie and Clyde. So the question is this: do you have a passport photograph that doesn't make you look like a criminal?
No, or a driving licence. It's the same thing, isn't it?
And if you do, please share with us the secret. Because you can't have an expression.
No, you can't smile. And I think that's the most difficult thing. Bryony said, how am I supposed to not smile? So she was like this. And I said, right, you can't do that. You've just got to have no expression on your face. It was really difficult for her to do it. And then she started laughing. So we were all laughing. And
I think my photo that I took is the perfect example of how to have no expression on your face.
Yours is terrible. And your head's so big in it as well.
That's enough waffle. Because we've got way too many amazing projects to show you. I'm so enthused and excited about one of mine. Literally the most enthused and excited about any project I've ever done.
It's the most complicated thing ever.
One repeat. I had 14 lines of instructions. One round. Sorry.
One round. Had
Just
14 lines of text.
And I had to do that round twice. And the second time I did it, I did have a headache. But I'm not complaining because I was engaged and enjoying myself.
Yeah.
So it's time for me to ask, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
Well, the first thing is a lovely sock. And
I need to dig my nitpick socks out because I do like them.
Oh, the
Doctor Who ones.
The worsted weight ones.
Yes.
Yeah, they're nice. Those. I know where they are.
Oh, well, that's good. We're getting into that time of year when I can wear them again.
They're in the cupboard in our bedroom.
Cool.
Right, so yes, a pair of socks. And this is a pair of socks for Bryony's birthday.
Woohoo.
Which is coming up towards the end of October. Now, because her birthday's close to Halloween, I thought this time it might be fun to sort of try and have a sort of Halloween-themed sock. I've not quite finished the first sock yet, but I've done enough that I can put it on a blocker. Now, I'm using some quite old stash for this. I'm not sure how long I've had this yarn, actually. It's a Knit Picks Felici. And I really like Felici. It does have its faults, I've got to say, but... And I'll tell you what I think those faults are. But I think they're far outweighed by the sort of softness and how fun it is to knit and the affordability as well. I think it's great. So this is the first sock as to where I am. Oh, isn't it lovely?
It is. I like them more actually than my ones because the colours are a bit bolder.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the things I think with Felici that quite often, for example, look at those two greys. There's barely anything between them. And I see that quite often, when I've seen other people knit with Felici, I see quite often that there's similar colours that they put right next to each other. And all they needed to have done here is to swap around those two greys. Or, I think what they've obviously done with this one is kind of like a gradient, isn't it? It goes from dark purple through to pink, dark grey through to light grey. But all they needed to do was really make this middle grey a bit lighter and everything would have been lovely. But instead it looks more like you've got a very thick stripe of grey. And then also you do find that there can be the transition between colours can sometimes be, it's quite long and it can leave sort of lighter sort of areas. You can see it a little bit in the purple here. Can you see there's like a lighter area? But really, I kind of don't mind all that, just because the yarn is really soft. It's lovely to knit with. It'll pill, you know, because it's really soft. But again, I don't mind socks that pill. I think they look quite nice, sort of pilly, cosy socks. I don't know, I just quite like that. I've not got a problem necessarily with pilling. This colourway is, I've got 2 skeins of it, but actually I think I'll only need 1. And it's Goth Kitty. So it's quite I'm not sure how long I've had this. A couple of years probably, maybe a bit longer. It's always longer than you think, isn't it? And it's number, gosh, I'm not sure actually which of those numbers it is. Maybe it's the one underneath the barcode. And it's really pretty. And, you know, the name of it, Goth Kitty, and the colours just made me sort of think of Halloween, really. So I've teamed it with what will be 3 colours of Cascade Heritage, because I do think Cascade Heritage is a really good match for Felici. When you look at them side by side,
Definitely, yeah.
It could be the same yarn, you know, it might even be the same base, I don't know. They're both really soft. I just had these colours, apart from one actually, I bought one of them, but I had the other 2 colours in my stash. So I've got this lovely kind of, I don't know whether it's coming across on screen, but it's got a greenish hint to the yellow. So it kind of makes me think of, I don't know, it's slightly going towards that slimy sort of colour. I say that in a good way. I think it's a really gorgeous colour. And that one is this. And it's called Burnished Gold. So it has got that edge of green. It's definitely a green tinted yellow. So Burnished Gold is the cuff, and then the heel is this gorgeous green, and this is Primavera. I'm pretty sure this is Primavera, a gorgeous green. And then the toe is going to be in this fabulous orange. Look at that. Isn't that going to be fun?
Yeah, I love that.
And this orange was the one that I purchased just recently, because I didn't have any orange. Orange is a colour that I don't generally really have. So I thought, right, I'm going to go and find an orange in the Cascade. And this is pumpkin, and it is the perfect pumpkin colour. It's really lovely. I love this colour, and you really like this colour.
I do.
You said when I was winding it, you said, "Oh, that's a great colour."
As much as some people don't like me in orange, I really like orange.
Yeah, I think orange. You can get away with orange.
Yeah, I don't mind. I love it.
It's not bright red, is it?
No.
So you can definitely get away with it. So I think that's going to be really fun. So I've just done a slip stitch heel, a square turn, and the reason I've done a square turn is I find that if you're going to put in a heel flap and gusset with self-striping socks, then go for a square heel turn, because you have less gusset decreases to decrease at the end, and therefore it doesn't disrupt the stripes as much. I mean, and when you look at that, there's only really in this dark purple where we might be sort of 1 row out. I don't think it really shows at all.
I think the whole heel turn thing is something which I would love to sort of understand a bit more with regards to what type of heel turn should I be doing, if, like you've just said there, or if I have a really big instep, what type of heel turn should I be doing? That you could keep going a little bit, couldn't you? Because there's so many different heel turns you can do.
Yeah,
it's the type of thing
it's not so much the heel turn if you have a big instep. It's doing more rows on the heel flap.
Sorry,
would always help.
Yeah, but the thing is, on a French...
Yeah, the French heel turn, which is a more traditional one, you end up with a lot more stitches after you've finished the heel turn. So you have much longer gusset decreases. So that does give you more room across the instep.
So if you were doing a French heel turn, you wouldn't and shouldn't do more in the heel flap, because...
I wouldn't initially. No. I would just try that first of all.
But so it is an interesting subject, I think, because, you know... You might think, mightn't you, okay, I've got a long instep, so I've heard that the thing to do is to do a longer heel flap. Well, but the pattern is telling you to do a French turn. Is that right? turn.
It might not tell you that it's a French heel turn. That's the thing. It might not specifically say in the pattern. It might just say heel turn, and you might not know which it is. But the French one looks more like a triangle.
Having that knowledge, which I'm only saying this because I've only just learnt this knowledge, that the French one gives you more decreases.
Because, for example, with this 64 stitch sock, with the square turn, I end up with 12 stitches when you've finished the heel turn. If I was doing a French heel turn, I would have, I think it's 20, I'm sure it's 20. So you've got 8 stitches difference, so that means you've got to do in effect 16 more rounds of gusset decreases. So if you think you've got 8 stitches more at this point here when you're starting your decreases, that is going to give you a lot more room over that instep area. So it might be that, you know, if you do have a higher instep, it could be that you just need to adjust that your heel turn. I would try that first.
Similarly, if you don't have a high instep, you probably...
If you don't have a high instep, you would probably more suit a square turn.
Yeah. So you might, for example, I might have knitted a pair of socks and I've done a French heel turn and they're all weird and baggy because I don't have a high. I wouldn't think, oh, it's the heel turn. I'd think, oh,
you'd think,
the pattern's not quite right for me. I won't knit those again. When actually all you would need to do
is just try a different heel turn.
That's the thing about sock knitting, is it's so deep. There's
lots of nuances, and it's just because, you know, everybody's feet are so different, aren't they? And you've just got to try all these things, and you will eventually just get to the recipe that is the perfect one for you.
How do you know? I've been on this journey, on this knitting journey for a long time now, and I've only just found out about the French heel turn and the fact that... So how do you find out about these things?
Well,
I went through the sock architecture book, and I've got to say, I don't remember seeing one bit that told me. And now I could be, I may be missing something.
I think it's just experience, and you know, it might be that someone has told you that who's got more experience, and you know they've kind of gone through the process more, or you might just land on a pattern that you're knitting and it just happens to have a particular turn that suits you, really.
Now you know, folks, everyone who is within our earshot, if you've got a pair of socks that you've knitted and it's got a French turn on it and it hasn't fitted quite right, it could be that all you've got to do...
Just try a different turn, try a square one, I interchange these within my patterns. Sometimes I'll do a French one, sometimes I'll do a square one. And they all fit me fine. I've not got a problem. But, you know, inevitably, if for example, if you knit 2 pairs of socks with 2 different heel turns, you could try them on, couldn't you, straight away after you've just made them, and then just really think which of these 2 is more...
I do think it's super clever, though, that with the French one, you don't need to knit along, you know, because for me...
Well, you might have to still.
Yeah, if you've got a really high...
If you've got a really high instep, that might not do the trick, you know, you might have to knit.
But it's a cool first step to take.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than having to knit more heel flap.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention about this sock is I picked up a tip from a lady on Instagram, and unfortunately I can't remember who it was. So if it was you, when I say what this tip is, if it was you, then please do comment underneath in the comments, because I would love, you know, to remember who it was, and I'm so sorry I can't remember. But this is a brilliant tip, and I've tried it and it works amazingly. When I'm knitting the heel flap, what she suggests you do you know, like when you're knitting a heel flap, it's always bothered me this, one side of your slip stitches are always looser, aren't they, than the other. They're bigger and they're just looser. Well, what she suggested doing was on the side where you're doing the knit side, so on the side where you're going knit slip, instead of slipping the first stitch purlwise, you slip it knitwise, and then just carry on, and everything else is the same. So I thought, I'm going to try this. And do you know what? It's brilliant. It works perfectly. So this is the normal side where it's been slipped purlwise. And you can see how lovely and neat that is, the pickup down there. Now, normally on the other side, you can sometimes get, you know, the edge of it can look sort of gappy. But look how neat it is on the other side. It's brilliant. And I've done it twice now, and it worked perfectly each time. So what a fantastic tip. And I just wanted to let you know so that, you know, if that issue bothers you, because I am a stickler for detail, as you know, then I would try that. So you just, on the knit side of your heel flap, you slip that first stitch knitwise instead of purlwise, and all the rest is the same. Nothing else changes. It's just that first stitch. Works brilliantly. So thank you, mystery Instagram lady. If you happen to be watching, then like I said, please do comment. So
I think you said you recalled her name was Yvonne.
It might have been Yvonne.
Yeah. If it was
Yvonne,
you,
if it was you,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Brilliant tip.
You're a genius.
So I think because I'm doing contrast cuffs, heels and toes, I think I'll get away with 50 grams as well for this pair. This is what I've got left, and I'm not far off the toe. I don't know how much I've got. What I'll do is I'll weigh this. When I finish the first sock, I'll weigh it, and if I've got at least 25 grams, I know that I'll be good to do the second sock. So I'm going to get those finished for her birthday. But, you know, I've got a little bit of time yet, so it's just one of those projects I'm picking up when I'm tired and I just want to knit, but nothing complicated. Dan Jones?
Yes.
My goodness, what's on your needles? This is epic.
It's the cascades. I know I showed you the sleeves last time, but that was a bit of a cheat because, as Kay said last time, where's the body? We found the body and it's now all attached.
Yes.
Would you believe it? My goodness. Do you know what? Things just didn't feel right when this wasn't together, and I kept sort of putting it off a little bit because we did it together and it sort of went on fine.
It was okay, actually.
Yeah.
I still didn't really understand what she wanted us to do.
But together...
But we just sort of figured it out how we thought it should be done.
Because you know what?
Does that make sense?
Teamwork makes.
Don't even say it.
The dream work.
Don't even say it. I'm back in the bank and it's 1992.
Corporate speak. It's the worst. But yeah, together, I knew, I was totally confident that if we sat down together,
Yeah.
because we both approach knitting in a different way,
Yeah.
and I think combined,
Yeah.
you get sort of logic with talent and clear. I think you do.
Well, we just fumbled our way through it, really, I would say.
I think, look, when you have a repeat, this you know, it's a paid for pattern, so obviously I can't show it to you,
No.
but I shall show you the front. It is, of course, the beautiful Cascades by Michelle Wong. And when you have a pattern, as we said at the start of the show, with a 14 line...
14 line, I mean, yeah, it's half a page like that, but still, it was this long. The instructions for one round.
I've never ever seen anything
with
like it in my
more
life.
abbreviations than you can shake a stick at.
I've learned more about knitting. I've learned more stitches.
At one point, you were doing a 3-needle bind off for.
I've done that loads.
Yeah, he's working on
decreases.
the raglan decreases now, and part of it involves a 3-needle bind off. I was like, what is going on?
So you're slipping 2 stitches onto a needle. You're either, depending on which way it needs to lean,
Yeah.
you're either holding it at the front
or
and then knitting
back,
2 together.
and then you're knitting that one together with.
Yeah. I've learned so much because I'd never done a slip purl before.
Neither had I, but I knew how to do it, and I said to Dan, "You're not going to like this.
Hey,
when I tell you how to do it."
Thanks to Kay's instruction, I'm not a problem, baby.
Because you have to knit, and when you finish slipping and passing back, you've got to knit those 2 together through the back loop. Sorry, purl them together through the back loop, which is kind of awkward, isn't it?
When you first approach that, when you first think, because you said it was really funny. We sort of did it, you know, right, okay, how are you going to purl those 2 together? And you look at it and you think, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
How could you purl 2 stitches through the back loop? Well, she showed me, and it's great.
Yeah, because I kind of...
You showed me the little trick about...
Yeah, I kind of do it, you know, you hold onto your stitches and you look at it from the front. Don't go like this.
We need to do a tutorial on slip purl. We will do a tutorial for a slip purl because it was sort of great. And this is why I'm absolutely loving this pattern. Because it's teaching me stuff on every single row.
It's taxing, you know, and I think even for an experienced knitter.
It's the most...
But look, it's all together. Oh no, I'm holding that too high, aren't I?
Way too high.
Yeah, I know. It's
but
just
people need to see it.
It's just so you can see it.
If you hold it at the right level,
we've got a sleeve here and a sleeve here. And we've got to seam the underarms there, look.
Shall I tell you what I'm loving? And I've successfully established now I've never done these before, but these are my favourite way of putting on sleeves is with raglan.
Putting on sleeves.
I don't know how to say it. I couldn't even remember how to say the size of needles the other day.
You like doing raglan decreases.
Raglan decreases are brilliant. On the Samantha we picked up and knitted out, which was a real faff. That was really hard on the hands. We've done all sorts of different ways of putting sleeves on, dependent on each, of the garments that I've knitted. And this is the first time I've ever done raglan, and I love them. I absolutely love them. I just think it's cool.
There? The very pretty... Oh, I'm holding it. There we go. That's the decreases that are running up.
It's nuts. It's like massively complex. I'm sure...
It's very complicated.
I'm sure raglan in its simplest form would be way easier than this.
Oh, yeah. The reason it's so complicated is because whilst you've got all that going on for the decreases, you've still got to maintain all of this complex pattern work all the way around.
I've got to say, actually, I'm stunned I haven't gone wrong.
Credit to you,
this bit.
honey, because it really is mind-blowing, the amount of work. And, honestly, if we'd have read forward in the pattern when he started this, I would have just said it's too much.
But that's nuts.
But I never read forward in patterns. And I know some people say you should always read the whole pattern before you start it. I never do. Because we would never have started this. If I'd have done that, this wouldn't actually be here. And like Dan said, you've learnt so much.
I'm obstinate though. I probably would have said I'm going to do it anyway.
You probably would, yeah. But at
Honestly,
the end of it, it's going to be treasured all the more because of all the work that's gone into it.
I've never knitted anything that I've loved as much as knitting this. And when this wasn't together and I wasn't knitting on it, it felt weird. I wasn't very happy at all. And this has taken over from the engagement of double knitting.
Yeah.
This is so much more. This is the hardest thing ever. And, I honestly would say I'd be stunned if, a really accomplished garment knitter approached this and went, oh yeah, it's a doddle.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone would find this a doddle. I mean, one thing I will say about the pattern is I was looking when we were sort of working on this. I said, I wonder how high the collar goes. I'll just have a look. This is the photo on the front. Can you see what my issue is?
You can't see it.
You can't see it.
So we went investigating.
Yeah.
And all the pictures that we found.
All the pictures that are in the pattern. Another one here. I won't, I'll fold it over so you can't see the pattern. But look. Here's another one where you can't see the collar.
I'm sure there must be ones that people have knitted out there.
That's fine. But if you don't want to go online or are not able to do that, and you're just looking at the pattern,
you shouldn't have to go hunting, should you?
No, this was the only one where she hasn't got a thing around her neck, and it's from the back.
And also, as well, it looks like she's got something.
You can't even see what's going on the front.
All you can see is a shirt.
Yeah.
Can't you? So the collar, I think, is quite low.
But you can only see a tiny bit of the rib, can't you, there on the back?
So there's not a lot of collar.
So I have no idea what the front looks like without obviously going online and sort of looking into it. And I think that's a huge mistake, really. You want to see what you're knitting, don't you? And all she needed to do was take this scarf thing off and let's see the collar underneath. That's really my only sort of criticism with regards to the photography. Yeah,
so the thing is though, none of this might be Michelle Wong's fault because this pattern.
It's Brooklyn Tweed, and it's probably Brooklyn Tweed that have done the styling of it, I would imagine, Well, and as we established when I started knitting this 15 years ago, the way this is laid out is not remotely easy to follow. No.
There is a huge amount of turning backwards and forwards, loads of pages. So what I found myself doing more and more is just making notes. But the thing is though, I'm actually learning more because I'm having to make notes, because you make a shortened note and then that helps you remember.
I've done the same thing with this, the next thing that I'm going to show you, I do the same thing. And I know a lot of people will suggest using an online sort of a help like Knit Companion or something like that.
I don't want to use a digital device.
I don't want to look at a screen when I'm knitting.
Me neither.
For the pattern, I never ever do that because it just doesn't seem right, I'm doing something with my hands.
Personally, when I'm knitting, I'm disengaging from the world.
Yeah, I mean,
and
you might be watching
re-engage.
something or listening to something, mightn't you, on a device? But I don't want to have to look at a device for my pattern. I want to have it there, you know. I want to be able to know that I can just pick that project up at any time without having to switch something on first.
I've got to say, my favourite knitting times is when it's me and the knitting and nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, that's for me what this wonderful art form we all do is all about. It's about relaxation, and my goodness.
Yeah. And I know a lot
I guarantee you, this is relaxing. But, you know, for so many it wouldn't be. It's relaxing for me because it quiets the brain. Because there is literally nothing else. When you've got 14 lines to read just to get once round, your brain has to be quiet.
Can't think of anything else.
No.
Yeah, so I do get that. Yeah.
But I adore this pattern, and I'm now beginning to worry about what I can do that's going to fill the void
Next.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry because that's going to take you a while,
That's great. You've made me happy.
That's going to take you a good while.
What else is on your needles?
Well, I've got a garment too, and I've made huge progress on this, and I shall tell you how I've managed to do that, because I must admit I was quite daunted at the thought of working on this again. It's Dan's tank top, and I was just like, I've got to knit all that again. I've knit it once, I've got to knit it all again. It was like second sock syndrome, but like a million times worse. So this was the first piece that I've shown you before, so the back has been finished for a while. I started work on the front, but I hadn't got very far. And I realised a couple of weeks ago, that I just didn't seem to be making a lot of progress on things generally. And I was just sort of going from one to the other and not really focusing. And I felt like I just was getting nowhere. So I thought, right, okay, I've got to address this. I've got to start making some progress, because I am more of a product knitter. So I really get satisfaction from seeing progress. So what I did was...
Can I just say before you carry on? You know when you're knitting an amazing project because you need 2 counters.
Well, you could do with one of those circa counters.
I think trying to
But
learn...
I find those... it's got like 2 or 3 dials on it, and...
You forget which one it
turn
is.
cogs and... No, I've never used one. They look like it might blow my mind.
I know that the panda's in charge of the whole pattern.
Yeah.
And the pink is just the
raglan.
The repeat in the middle.
Oh, right, okay.
So panda is
Panda's
the boss.
the head of what's going on.
So look to the panda first, and the pink helps you with the bit in the middle.
Right. If it works for you,
yes,
that's fine. What I did was I got my planner. I have just a little planner that I use for all my sort of daily things, work, home life, everything really.
It just sounds really funny. Home life.
Well, just appointments and school things and
excellent.
Nothing very exciting.
Right.
So I thought, right, I'm gonna.
I'd like to book in a regular appointment, Kay.
So I took my planner and I thought, right, I'm going to split this down into little manageable chunks. And I know a lot of people do this sort of same thing to get through things that are, you know, maybe a little bit kind of sluggish, for use of a better word. So I thought, right, okay, what I'm going to do is every day I'm going to work 1 repeat on Dan's tank top, which is 8 rows. And then I'm also going to do a chunk of time on a design project that I'm working on, because I've got quite a few design things going on in the background at the moment that weren't going as quick as I wanted them to. So I've been doing that for the past maybe 10 days, and it's just worked so brilliantly well. So much so that this is where I'm up to on the front. I can't remember where I was last time, but way down. So this is now where I'm up to on the front. So I've finished the main body and I'm now doing the decreases for the underarm here. And I've got another 8 rows and I will have finished the decreases. And then you have to work just a section just straight, and then you start working on the V-neck. So what you do is you just work on one side to the top, then you go back and work on the other side to the top. And then I'll be at the stage where I can, sew it all together and do all the finishing work, which will be exciting. So, because I've got to have this finished for Dan's birthday, which is the beginning of October. We're almost into September, so I've still got 3, maybe 4 weeks, because I want to allow myself a bit of time for it's going to take me a bit of time to sew it all together, to then do the ribbing on the armbands and the collar. That's going to take a little bit of time, and then I want to have enough time to wash and block it. So I really want to finish it with at least a week's leeway. But it's just worked so well, and I've been working these 8 rows very first thing in the morning. When I get up, I'm always up early, so I just get it done, out of the way, and I can forget about it. And then I can do whatever I've allocated for that day on design work. And I know then when I've got through both of those things, if there's any time left in the day, then I can just do whatever I want. And that's allowed me to cast on those socks for Bryony and another new thing, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So it's worked really well. And I'm really pleased that I've got this kind of, all this body area done. I was like, oh, that's just so nice. And I'm now decreasing, and that's always a good feeling, isn't it? So I'm using, what am I using? Drops.
Charisma.
Thank you. I think it's colour 21. Oh, here we go. Yes, 21. Drops Charisma, and it's one of the mix. I don't know if they've all got mix underneath, but it's a very heathered grey. It's really lovely, and I'm not sure actually how many of the 50-gram balls I've used now. I just keep adding them in, and I think I overbought anyway, so I'm sure I'll have a couple spare at the end. So yeah, really pleased. I'm using my favourite needles, which are the higher bamboos. These are, I believe it's 3.75. I think the pattern recommended 4mm, but I did do a little swatch at the beginning, and I got closer to gauge with the 3.75, and I just liked the fabric better as well. It was just a bit denser. It's so pretty. I love moss stitch. It's so nice. That's just where I've got to weave in an end. You can see that. That's where I've added a ball in. That's why that looks a bit gappy on the front there. So I'm getting close to the end. So I'm hoping the next time I show you this, it'll be finished. It's got to be, really, hasn't it? Because I really, really want this. Well, it will be finished for Dan's birthday. There's no two ways about it. I'm not gonna let it go beyond that. So I did the same thing that Dan did for this. The instructions for it were very just like, here's a bunch of instructions, and just make of it as you will, really. So I hand wrote it out. Here.
I mean, if ever there was a pattern that was written thinking that you've already knitted 50 garments and you know exactly what you're doing, it's this one.
But they were written like that back in the sort of 80s, I think. They were more vague with the instructions. Things like seam garment together, or
right then.
Okay.
I'll get on with that.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And I think originally I know that this pattern did come in a book, and the book did have extra instructions on the finishing, and someone very kindly sent me details of that because they had the book. So I do have some extra details on the finishing, which is brilliant. But if you just bought the paper pattern, you wouldn't have that, would you? But I can navigate my way through it, so I'm sure anybody who's knit a few garments before would be able to as well. So it's the Peyton's pattern, and it's his and hers Aran vest with neck options. Very excited to have made all that progress.
You finished?
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's kind, isn't it? Wow.
This is a gorgeous pattern. This is the Norwegian cow.
I can't wait to have this.
It's a free pattern. It won't be long now.
I love the snowflakes are beautiful, aren't they?
It's
gorgeous.
I've still got a way to go with my colourwork technique, but it's the best colourwork thing I've ever knitted by miles.
When it's had a block, though, it'll be lovely.
But the other thing for me is, I think
it's pretty good.
Look at the in the middle there.
Yeah, there.
It's historically when I've had
really
single
good.
Stitches, you're changing to contrast and you're changing back. That's when the stitches can disappear.
It's gorgeous. It's very me, that, isn't it? I wear that all the time.
Yeah. I think it's a beautifully put together design. I really do. She's
fantastic for a free pattern.
I know.
I think that's brilliant.
What's marvellous about this is there appears to be lots of patterns on Ravelry called the Norwegian cowl.
Oh, really?
All with very similar.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
I think I should knit a collection of these.
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling like this might be a bit of a plan.
Oh, do you know, I'd quite like one with like a tonal navy blue background.
Okay.
With like a creamy white. Maybe a creamy white with just little tiny specks of colour in. That'd be beautiful, wouldn't it?
Okay.
I could dice them up, couldn't I, for that?
Well, I'll do that next, I think.
Lovely.
It's really great fun as well because the rows change more than a lot of the patterns that I've knitted. You know, there's more going. Well, you can see, can't you?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
You know, I think all those different motifs constantly keep you engaged. You know, you're always thinking about what you're doing. And what's really cool for me has been there's been quite a lot of rows where you're having to float quite a bit, and that's really good for me because I've not done a massive amount of that. So the more experience I can have.
You mean
floating.
you've got a long stretch where you've got to catch the floats? That's what you mean.
So I'm doing that much more often than I have done before. So this pattern, Adele Murray, who recommended this, thank you so much because it's just been brilliant for me, and I'm going to be sad to finish it, but I'm also not, just because there's so many more to go at. And as you know, I get worried when I'm finishing a project. Isn't that funny? Are there many other people out there who get worried when they're finishing a project?
I'm like, hey, cast on something new.
I feel sad because it's like when films end. I get really sad because it's like, oh, I was enjoying that. And it's the same with a pattern. It's different with garments. It's funny that, isn't it? When I finish a garment, I'm excited because just after that first one that I did, the Irish coffee, and seeing you put that on, and it was such a sort of warming feeling. It's like, oh my goodness, this is great. So I do enjoy finishing a garment, but things like this, I think because you've only been knitting them a short amount of time, because they're sort of on and off your needles so fast, it's always a little bit sad. But
it's lovely.
Kay's yarn. Special colourways she did for me. It's Rose Garden Green and Queen Mary's Rose. And the yarn's just been brilliant, actually, for doing colour work.
It's just, and it's not really an ideal colourwork yarn. It's just 100% superwash merino, so it's really not the best for colour work, but it just looks lovely.
Well, it's really worked.
I think it gives it that modern edge, doesn't it? Because you're using a yarn base that wouldn't normally be used for colour work, and also hand dyed with the speckles and everything. Yeah. And the tones, I think it just gives it more of a. It's not as traditional looking as if you'd knit it in like a rustic yarn.
I love the rib too.
Yeah, it's a 2x2 corrugated, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
It's lovely.
I just putting that on something plain but would be really sort of fun and cool, and just that for me, that's a learning point because it wasn't difficult to do, and it's the type of thing that
it's because it's got pearls, isn't it? You wouldn't normally be purling in colour work like that.
And it was sort of fun. I think it's going to really sort of sandwich it together really nice. Yeah. So Norwegian cow. Great project, and I've got 2 or 3 rows to go on the main long repeat.
Then you'll be doing,
and then I'm into the short stuff, and the short stuff tend to get through this faster. So
you're doing this bit again, effectively, right? Lovely.
And it's funny that, isn't it? I suppose it's obvious, but when you've just got 2 or 3 or 4, well, it'd be 2 or 4, wouldn't it? 2 or 4 stitches to remember. It sort of rattles off.
Yeah, it does. It goes much quicker.
Much quicker than I think it's 16 here, which is a bit more. Yeah. And to start with, it's funny, isn't it, how you start off and it's like it's really hard to remember. And I know people adopt all sorts of different techniques, sticking in markers every 16 stitches, or there's all sorts of different things you can do. Well, actually, using your brain. Granted, you might make a mistake and then you've sort of messed it up, and that would be a disaster, but I'm all for using my brain. Yeah,
I think it's good to have to think a bit more, isn't it, sometimes,
It's why I'm adverse to looking things up on Google.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Yesterday we tried to remember all the Doctor Who's.
Yes,
we couldn't remember William Hartnell.
We forgot the very first one, William Hartnell. And
I think credit needs to go to us, though, for remembering.
We did all the others.
Yeah, in the right order.
In the right order.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are 2 people, we weren't Doctor Who lovers.
Not really, no.
It's fine, don't mind it.
I used to watch a bit of Tom Baker.
Peter Davison for me.
Because I was 9 when Tom Baker had K9. So, of course, that was a nickname at school for a couple of years for me. It was K9, which is nice.
What else is on your needles?
Well, now this is something that I cast on with crochet. I don't know that you do. Started. I don't know what you'd say when it's crochet. But it's a crochet shawl, and it's something I started because I'd freed up this time, I'd done my kind of allocated what I've got to get done in the day, and I just had a bit of free time. And I thought, what can I do? And I just watched an episode of a podcast. Oh my goodness. When I saw this person popped up on YouTube, at first I didn't believe it. I just thought, it's one of her old ones, because it sometimes does that, doesn't it? YouTube will recommend older episodes of something you've already watched. And I just sort of I actually dismissed it. I thought it was an older one. And then it popped up again a couple of days later, and I looked at the date and I looked at it again. I was like, it's a new episode. I was so thrilled, and it was just so lovely to watch. And it's Sarah, who is Love Sock Wool. She's podcast for quite a few years now, but she hasn't for quite some time. Sarah, if you're watching, oh my goodness, you absolutely made my day. And I sat and watched it, and in fact I watched it twice. I do that sometimes. I'll watch, podcasts more than once. It was just so nice to see her. And, she was knitting all these socks like she always knits. And it actually made me go back and watch some of her old ones. And I watched one episode where at the time she was kind of adding up how many socks that she'd got on the go. And I think she'd got like 30 pairs. I just love that so much. She just casts on with abandon and not bothered how many pairs she's got on the go, because I've just got this new beautiful yarn and I have got to cast it on straight away. So she does, and I just love that attitude. I think that's just brilliant. And she'd been knitting this short
so
crochet.
So we should do a colourway called Abandon.
Abandon.
I've cast on with Abandon.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. That's cool, yeah. And I think she'd just finished it. I don't know. I think she'd finished working on it, because I think she was saying she was going to start another. It's a crochet shawl, and she showed it, and I was like, that is just so pretty. And it was all scraps. And she said what type of stitch it was, and I think Sarah called it linen stitch. She didn't sort of recommend a specific pattern, because she said there's loads out there, just YouTube tutorials on how to do a triangle, I said that funny, a triangle shaped shawl in linen stitch. But actually the tutorial I used, it called it moss stitch. I think it does look more like a knitted linen stitch than moss stitch. I'll show you in a sec. But if you're looking for it, I actually used a tutorial by Blossom Crochet.
And it's linked in the show notes below.
Linked below. She's a UK YouTube crochet lady. So that was the one I followed. Really fantastic tutorial. And in fact, this that I'm working on is the actual one that I just started first off. And at first I thought, I'll just do a practice, and then I'll start the real one. Well, I did the practice and it was perfectly fine, so I just carried on. So this is where I'm up to. Look how pretty. Look how pretty that is. And I'll hold it close so you can see the stitch. How lovely is that? And doesn't it look like a knitted linen stitch? I think it does. And it's really simple. If you've never crocheted before, or, you're just not very experienced with crochet, as I'm not really, I do grannies and that's about it really, isn't it? I'm not hugely experienced. This is really simple. It just uses double crochet. In the US that's something else. Is it single in the US? Or is it triple? I can't remember which way it goes. But for us in the UK, it just uses double crochets, chains in between, something a little bit different on the edges, and and on the point to increase, and then that's it. And you just carry on. So I'm magic knotting, and I started off with 2 yarns, the pink and the blue. These are 2 yarns that I dyed up recently, just for myself. I just wanted to have a couple of yarns to play with, just for me. So I dyed these up, and the blue reminded me kind of Peter Rabbit. And the pink is sort of also a bit rabbity, made me think of rabbit sort of noses, or girl rabbits. So I started off with those two, and I used the base that I actually dyed on, do you know, for the tutorials that I've done recently, and it's the 8515. Absolutely gorgeous base. It's so soft. You know, if you felt it, you might even think it was cashmere. It's so soft. It's gorgeous. So I started with those, and then this one, this beautiful speckled, is from Pixie Yarns, another UK dyer. And that is the colourway Three Friends. I think that's gorgeous. Then the purple, and then this one. This one is the leftovers from my Cowboys and Angels shawl. It's the yarn that Kelly dyed. And the purple was the coordinating mini that came with it. So this is all of my leftovers from the shawl, plus I put a bit of the mini. And it was called Shepherd's Delight. And I think it's just such a gorgeous speckle. And then the bluey, that's another Pixie yarn in Urchin. And then the gold, and then this one are two yarns that I dyed. In fact, the one that I've just finished here, that one is the one that I actually dyed up for the tutorial. And I just love it, you know, and it's kind of the thing that I'm doing last thing at night. And it's so simple, you know, it's so lovely and simple, and you get to just play with gorgeous yarns. And it's just the no ends, you know, I'm just magic knotting, and you know, that's fine. I'm not worried with a magic knot. I've never had a problem with it so far, and it's just gorgeous. So Sarah, if you're watching, thank you so much for showing this, because it just, you know, I've just so enjoyed working on it, and so much so that I thought what I might do is just make this into a gigantic triangle. And then you could do another one, couldn't you, and sew them together, and you'd have a gigantic square blanket. So I might do that. Or if I've still got this one ongoing at Christmas, I might start adding in some of my Advent minis into it. I think that might be fun. But I'm keeping it these kind of gentle colours with just little pops of slightly brighter. So I kind of pulled out a few solid ones that I want to put in, or tonals.
It doesn't look like crochet. It
doesn't look like crochet, does it? No. I don't think so either. So I think if you are one of these people that's not keen on that like crochet look,
when I think of crochet, I think of like holy stuff.
Yeah,
that's not.
And it's not. It's a very sort of solid fabric. So I've got a few kind of tonals here that I'm going to add in, and then mix in the speckles as well. But I'm using the hook size I'm using. This was the other joyous thing. I got to use a pink hook. I think Sarah was using a 4mm. I'm not very good with the letters. I don't know what the letters mean, and I think Sarah just said the letter of the hook. I'm using a 3.75mm, and that it says it's an F, so I'm presuming that's correct. And it's the clover ones that I really like, and it's pink. So I get to use a pink hook to make something that's gorgeous. And, you know, isn't it just... I'm going to show you again just because it's so lovely, so neat. That's what I love about it. It's so incredibly neat, and I love things that look neat and tidy. And, you know, I'm using all different yarn bases, and they're just all working fine. They just all look, you know, just as beautiful as each other, I think. Absolutely love it. So I'll show you progress on that as I do more.
Cool. Folks, what a year this has been. When March hit and the worst happened, our schedule was thrown into total disarray. But who came riding to the rescue on her white Lippenzana stallion?
I've never ridden a horse.
Haven't you?
No. Donkey on the beach.
Right.
I don't think that counts. I'm a bit scared of horses.
Well, she did come riding on her Lippenzana stallion to the rescue. They're those white ones.
I know, that'd be like, do you know what I'd love to do actually?
Bareback, she was.
No. The American football horse.
Oh, yeah.
What is
Denver
the Broncos?
Thunder.
They have thunder going through the stadium.
Yes.
That's a fantastic horse.
That's what happened. She came riding to the rescue to pull our schedule from the absolute mire with this season of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club. And because of that early arrival and back-to-back production schedule, we've come to the end of the season so much earlier.
A bit earlier.
But we're going out. It's the royal we. She is going out.
She?
She's going out in real style as she combines, as Kay combines, two of our most favourite puddings. Shall we find out what she's doing? Let's, as we enjoy, and we're definitely going to enjoy, because I'm going to eat them all, because there's one left and that's mine. The Bakery Bears Pudding Club.
Who's ready for a brand new season of Pudding Club?
Yes, we're heading back into the kitchen for 8 brand new delicious bakes.
Every one of them is inspired by the puddings of our youth.
And at the end of the series, you can vote for your favourite. In 2019, you crowned Sticky Toffee Pudding your winner. But what will win this year?
Let's find out in a brand new season of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe it. 7 episodes ago, we began another epic culinary journey in this year's Pudding Club. From carrot cake to lemon grease torte and so much more. This year, we have baked some of my favourite puddings to date, and today the series comes to an end. But I've been saving something rather special for our final episode. These are the utterly gorgeous strawberry cheesecake cupcakes. Yes, you heard that right. They're a combination of 2 of my favourite things, cheesecake and cupcakes. Surprisingly light and utterly delicious, they celebrate all that is wonderful about summer in one wonderful bake. So let's get into the kitchen and I'll show you how we make them.
Okay, so what are we going to need for our delicious cupcakes? First of all, flour. I've got plain flour here, caster sugar, baking powder, we've got some digestive biscuits, icing sugar, or confectioner's sugar, I think it's sometimes called, some butter. I like to use salted butter. If you want to use unsalted, that's absolutely fine. Cream cheese. Doesn't have to be this brand, but you know, whatever you want. It needs to be full fat, I'm afraid. I've then got some vanilla paste or extract, whichever you've got in your cupboards. An egg that's hiding down here, just 1 egg, and some strawberries. I've got about 200 grams here. You know, just one of the normal packs that you can kind of pick up in supermarkets or farm shops, you know, the normal size little sort of punnets that you get. Okay, so what about the baking notions? So it's all the usual kind of suspects, if you like. We've got just a nice roomy mixing bowl, weighing scales. We've got a little measuring jug. I've got a handheld electric beater. You can use a tabletop one if you prefer. I've got a spatula, as always, some measuring spoons. And then to bake our cupcakes in, I've got one of these deep muffin tins. It's not the usual little sort of fairy cake tins, it's one of the deep muffin tins. And I've put into each of the little bowls, I've got some cupcake cases, and these again are the deep ones. They're sometimes called muffin cases, but it's the ones that are nice and deep. Okay, let's get baking. Okay, so I've got in my bowl, first of all, I've got 50 grams of the butter, and this should be really nice and soft. So take it out of your fridge a good couple of hours before you want to start baking. And even then, if it's a cool day, sometimes you might just have to give it a little zazz in the microwave on the very lowest setting. You don't want it melting in any way. So if you're going to do the microwave thing, just a few seconds each time and keep checking it. So really nice and soft butter. So to this butter, I'm going to first of all add my flour. This is plain flour, and I want 140 grams. So I'm going to zeroise my scales and then add to the butter 140 grams of flour. I don't bother sieving it, you can if you want to. Oh, it's gone a tiny bit over, but we'll live with that. And then to the flour, I'm going to add some baking powder.
And I want about 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So that's 1.5. Quite often when we're making cakes we use self-raising flour. This particular recipe that I'm using and I've kind of adapted, it uses plain flour and then you make it into self-raising flour effectively by adding the baking powder, which will have been the way that all sort of cakes were made before self-raising flour was invented. So into this now I'm going to add my caster sugar and another 140. Okay. And now what we're going to do, this is quite unusual, this recipe, and it's the only recipe that I use this sort of method of making I'm going to say batter. It's more of a batter than a sponge mixture. So what we're going to do initially is we've got all of those dry ingredients, and it's kind of like a muffin as well, I suppose, because with muffins you add the wet ingredients into the dry. This one's slightly different, but it's along that sort of theme. I need to sort of amalgamate all of these ingredients together. Now the way that I do it, initially I just start off with a fork, because if you go into this mixture with your electric beaters, you're just going to get a cloud of flour coming up to greet you. So if we start it off with a fork and just start getting that butter worked into the ingredients and just get rid of that powdery sort of nature to the flour, we can then go in with the beaters without the risk of filling the kitchen full of flour dust. So just get it going with the fork. So we've got that going now, and I think we'll be safe to go in with the beaters. We probably still will get a bit of flour coming up. So I'm just going to get that butter off my fork because I don't want to lose any of that butter. Because there's actually not that much butter in the sort of batter itself. And now I'm going to go in with the beaters. Just on its lowest setting. I kind of wish this had an even lower setting, to be honest. Okay, so you can see now that it does just really look like a lovely sandy beach, and we can't see any of the butter. It's all been completely blitzed into the dry ingredients. Okay, so that's the dry ingredients. We're now going to add in the wet ingredients. Right, so into my bowl, first of all, I'm going to add in a nice blob of the vanilla paste. Lovely. It's probably more than you actually need, but I just love it. And now into this mixture I'm going to pop in some milk. I've got 120 mils of, this is semi-skimmed milk. You can use whole milk, but don't go any sort of lighter than semi-skimmed. I mean, ideally if I'd had whole milk in the fridge I would have used that, but we very rarely have whole milk. So I always use semi-skimmed and it's totally fine. So 120 mils straight into that. And now I'm going to give that a beat. So halfway through, I just go in with my spatula and just gather all those bits that have been sort of kicked up onto the edge to amalgamate them in. And then just another couple of minutes beating. Okay, that's lovely and just smooth and mix through. So we now just need to add the egg. So I'm not just going to crack that straight in. What I'll do, I'll crack it just into the little jug that I used for my milk. And then just get a fork and just break it up. Just to start it going, really. That's fine. Now add in the egg and give it another beat. So there we go, that's our cake batter all ready to go into the cases, and you can see it's definitely looser than a normal sponge mixture. It is more of a batter.
So I'm going to bring in my strawberries. Now what I've done is I've kept just a few of the whole strawberries aside, just about sort of 4 or 5 of them just to one side, and I've chopped up the rest. If you were to sort of get an average size strawberry, there's probably about 12 here, and I've just chopped them up, as you can see, to little chunks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of the mixture into each of the muffin cases. This will make between 10 and 12. It depends on how generous you are with your batter when you put them in. So I'm going to start off just filling up 10, and then I'll see if I've got some left over. So I've got like a normal dessert spoon here, and I'm just going to put in a little blob just so it covers the base of the case. This will just stop the strawberries from being right on the bottom of your cupcake case. So that's 9. I'll do one more and then we'll go around with the strawberries. So I'm just going to put a little sprinkle of strawberries in each one. I think what I'll do is I'll just make it sure that we just have 10 in this case. We'll make nice big muffins. So I'm going to use all of these actually, but you can actually stretch it to 12 if you just make them a bit kind of shallower, if you like. So now I'm going to go back over them and top them up, and this time I'm going to use about, a dessert spoon, because I can always go back and put a little bit more on, but we want to make sure that they all get a good covering. And this batter, it produces a really light cake. It's not that kind of, Victoria sponge is not dense, I wouldn't say, but it is much lighter than that, and I think that's because of the method that we've used, and also because we've not really used that much butter. Or eggs, actually. It's a very frugal recipe. If you've got a punnet of strawberries lying around, then you've probably got everything else in your store cupboards. Don't worry if you can see a little bit of the strawberry peeking through, because as the cake rises, that'll just cover over. And those strawberries sort of cook down to a kind of a mush, like a strawberry mush. It's really lovely. So now I've preheated my oven to about 170 degrees C, and I'm going to pop these in for about 20-25 minutes. Keep an eye on them. You want them to have risen and be nice and golden, and when you touch the top they'll just bounce back. So about 20-ish minutes. Okay, so our cupcakes are in the oven. I'm going to give them 20-25 minutes, and then you just need to take them out and let them go completely cold. Just lift them out of the muffin case, pop them onto a wire rack, let them go completely cold. And then when you come back in part 2, I'm going to show you how to make the delicious cream cheese frosting. We're going to add the gorgeous biscuit topping and then just pop a little strawberry on to finish off. So I'll see you back in part 2.
There really is nothing better, when you think about it, than a nice bit of cheesecake and a nice cupcake. So who would have thought that you can combine the two? And what I love the most about these is, I'm sure we'd all agree that seasons are very much about tastes. And my goodness, you've absolutely captured the sort of summer feel.
Yeah.
Just as we're saying goodbye to summer. It's like having a little party saying, thank you, summer.
Saying thank you, summer, for being very hot again.
For baking me silly.
Don't come back too soon.
Yes. See you next year.
Yeah.
Delicious. But there's so much drama. Because will the icing go runny?
Drama. Oh, I tell you, cream cheese.
Yes,
Did I say it right?
She got there.
I just can't get that right in my head. It can be a bit of a tricky thing. If you overbeat it, it'll just go runny.
And when you come back in part 2, we're going to see if we can beat it and it not go runny.
Yes.
But also, will they rise?
Will they rise?
Because it's an interesting batter.
Very interesting. I wouldn't never normally make cupcakes in this way. It's kind of like a cross between a muffin and a scone and a cupcake, and
I think this is all what's combining to make them light.
They're very light because there's not really a lot of butter comparatively, and there's only one egg.
And the interesting thing is, for me, the strawberries take on a rhubarby type.
They do. You know, when strawberries cook, you know, because you don't normally cook strawberries, do you, unless you're making jam, and that's not really the same thing. But I thought that when I was eating it myself, it felt
It's like rhubarb.
Actually, if I'd used rhubarb, I think that would have been nice, because it would have been
Nice to try.
Yeah, I mean, rhubarb is sharp, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it would cut through the sort of sweetness of everything. I think that would be nice. You'd have to cook it first, though, I think.
I used to have rhubarb a lot when I was young.
Oh, I love rhubarb. Yeah.
Rhubarb and custard.
Delicious.
But also feels strangely weird to be putting custard on top of
Custard.
rhubarb and custard.
Oh, right.
It always seemed weird to me as a child. It's a bit like at school when we used to have bananas and custard.
Bananas and custard.
Did you have that at school?
Yeah, we did. My sister Donna used to love
Right.
bananas and custard. It makes me think of her.
It always seemed a bit weird. I don't know, fruit.
It's an odd
custard
thing.
to me
I think-
goes on a pastry.
Yeah, and I think because the textures are sort of similar, aren't they?
Yeah.
The whole thing is a bit too mushy.
Although it was quite cool with the rhubarb. If you cook rhubarb really well and it's got like that syrupy, that on the bottom with the custard on top, it's
You know,
pretty good.
I wouldn't say no if somebody offered me that.
Rhubarb crumble
Crumble's
cake.
delicious.
Hold me. It's that bit where the crumble becomes the.
And it gets like, it goes, you know, your crumble goes that bit sort of gooey, doesn't it? And and then you get a bit of cream or custard on it. Oh, it's delicious.
If you're going to crumble anything, for me, rhubarb wins.
It does, because I like crumbles to be, and I like a lot of desserts to have that sharp element to them, and I think using rhubarb you get that sharpness.
And for me, that transition from the crumble to the rhubarb is way better than the transition from crumble to apple.
Because apple's a bit more sturdy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And rhubarb does kind of go that mushy. Oh, rhubarb mush, delicious.
All this talk of puddings, don't worry, because part two
I want a pudding now. I've not got anything.
Part 2 of the Bakery Bears Pudding Club is coming later on in the show. But now it's time for me to ask, and I'm very excited to do this, because this looks wonderful. It really does. Kate Jones, what's off your needles?
Well, I've got two things.
You have not.
I do, look.
Well, go to the
You
foot
couldn't
of our
see it
stairs.
because this is so big you couldn't see the thing underneath.
Amazing. I didn't know.
The first thing I finished is my wrap. This is the wrap that is the next platinum pattern, and it'll be going out to all qualifying patrons at the beginning of September, so just next month. So it's all finished. I'm in the process of writing the pattern at the moment, and took the photographs in a really lovely location.
Yes.
It came out really pretty. So here is the finished wrap. It's rather big. So this is it doubled over. I'll hold it up and you can see how lovely it is now. It's all been blocked. So it starts with that dusky pink, and then it goes into this striped section all the way around the other side, and then back to the pink. So it's a really good length. I should put it around my neck, shouldn't I? And I knit this from Rico Essentials Mega Merino Chunky. So it's a chunky weight yarn. Oh, got a little shawl lady thing going on.
Matchmaker.
I love that film, it's so good. So yes, it's all finished and I love it. Oh, it's so nice. This yarn, so it's the chunky yarn. I use 3 different colours of it. It's really soft. It's a wool acrylic mix, but it blocked really lovely, and it's gorgeously soft. It's really, I would really recommend the yarn. I did get a few breaks in the yarn. I think I said that before, didn't I? So if you are going to use this yarn, just be aware that you might get a few knots in it. But it was fine. I just cut them out, carried on, wove the ends in. It was fine. And the yarn itself to knit with was lovely. It's got a really nice tight twist. There was no kind of splitting of yarn or anything like that when you're doing decreases and things and the cables. So it was just great and I loved it. So this does have a name now, and a few of our lovely patrons suggested names when we were filming our last P.O.P episode, our patron only podcast, and one of the names just stuck in my head and I thought, you know what, it's just perfect, so I'm going to use that name. So this is the September wrap.
Yes.
And it will be coming out this September. I just thought that was really fun, and it's just a nice cosy thing to work on in the autumn. It just summed up everything really that I wanted to sort of convey with this design. So let me take it off, and I've actually remembered to bring downstairs the baby blankets that inspired this design, because I've said a few times that I was inspired to design this by some baby blankets that my mum knit Bryony.
And you spoke in depth actually on a design diary.
Yes,
too.
I did, and I showed them on that design diary as well. This is 2 of them. I've got 2 more, but I've got this kind of, this lurid green baby yarn. I bet everybody's got something in this, in days gone by where your mums or your grannies have knit for babies. It's true though, there was always this sort of green that was knit for babies when you didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl.
That sort of glows.
Yeah, it's quite lurid.
It's like plutonium.
It's quite lurid green. And then I've got one in this gorgeous baby pink as well. And this green one actually was the blanket that we brought Bryony home in.
Yes.
When she was first born, I wrapped her in this green blanket, so it feels really special. And it's just baby acrylic DK. There's nothing glamorous about the yarn at all. But as you can see, that's where the sort of inspiration for the pattern came from. And these are very treasured blankets, and I've got another one in a deep red, and I've got a white one as well. So I love those. So yeah, that's the September wrap. So I hope you all enjoy that when you get the pattern. It'll be within the first week of September, you'll get that. And it's just a really lovely thing to work on. You can easily, quickly memorise the pattern. You can decide whether you want to do it in just one solid colour, the whole thing, or you might stripe the whole thing, or colour block it, or do whatever you want really. It's very adaptable. Really fun to knit, and a great thing to have ready for the cold weather.
Yeah.
Please, let's have a really cold winter.
Yes.
And then the second thing I've finished is my Sherry Iris crochet blanket. I finished it. Oh, that's the wrong way. Look how lovely. Can you see that on the screen, Dan?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. So it starts up here. I'll show you the border in a sec. Doesn't the border look pretty, actually, from a distance? Oh, I think it works really well. And it goes all the way. It's just a really nice lap-sized blanket. It goes, when it's over you, it goes all the way over. It goes all the way down to the floor. So it's just, for me, it's the perfect size. So with the border, I actually decided just to go around a few times and pick out some of my favourite yarns that I'd got sort of left of Sherry's. I didn't use all of my minis by any means, which I kind of didn't want to. I do like having a lot of Sherry's minis in my stash because they're so pretty. But I went round, how many times did I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first of all, I did 2 rounds, well no, just 1 round actually extra of the grey. So that effectively you've got 2 rounds there of the grey. And then there's 5 rounds of different colours. And then I did another 2 rounds to finish in the grey. And I think that just gives it that finishing touch, I think. Just looks really nice. Without being overly fussy. In the end, I didn't think it needed any kind of sort of edging, because the colours are so lovely, and so I don't think it needs anything else. I think I wanted just the yarns themselves to be the feature, and I think I've achieved that. It's Sherry really that's achieved it, isn't it, with all of her lovely yarns. So pretty, aren't they?
They're
and
gorgeous.
I've seen a few people making these, which is really lovely. And I'll definitely do another one of these. I'd quite like to do just a gigantic granny square with this same method, because what I do now with granny squares is I turn after each round. I just flip it over and then do the next round there, flip it over and do the next round. And you end up with a very square square. It doesn't bias, it doesn't skew. You can, if you just do a granny square and work it all from that side, it will start to kind of look like it's twisting, whereas if you flip it after each turn, then it doesn't do that. And I can't remember where I saw the information to say to do that. I honestly can't remember. It's certainly, it's obviously not my invention, but it really works, absolutely works. I'm thrilled to have that finished. And I use Cascade Heritage in Lunar Rock for the borders. And, with the borders on all the squares and then the border all the way around.
Beautiful.
So, love it.
I want some cake, so let's get back into the kitchen and find out if the icing's runny and the cakes are floppy.
Welcome back everyone to part 2 of the final pudding club. Now our cupcakes have cooled down and they're all ready for their absolutely delicious topping. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the biscuity sort of crumb topping. So I've got about 75 grams here of digestive biscuits, which is, in my case, is 5 biscuits. So I need to crumb these down, and this is what's going to produce that flavour of the base of a cheesecake. In this case, we're putting it on the top. So I'm going to pop them into a freezer bag. You can do this in like a food processory thing, but it's just not worth it, I don't think, for all the washing up it creates afterwards. So all I'm going to do is give them a bash with a rolling pin. So just I start by sort of using the end of the rolling pin just to break them up, and then I'm just going to roll them. This is great fun, if you've got children helping you make these, then they're going to love doing this part. You can, if you want, leave, some of them a little bit sort of bigger crumbs than the other, or you can totally sort of blitz it down to a really fine crumb. It's really up to you. I mean, that's not bad already. It only takes a couple of minutes, as you can see. I'm going to leave just a few sort of bigger crumbs. That looks good. So that's now ready to sprinkle on the top. So I'm just going to fold down the top so that we can get to it easily. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is make the cream cheese frosting. Now, it's not a difficult thing. However, I've had disasters in the past making this type of frosting, because what can happen is if you overbeat it when you add in the cream cheese, it will go runny. There's no coming back from that, I've discovered. So I'm going to do it a method that means that it avoids that kind of danger, if you like. Okay, so into my bowl, I've got here 50 grams of butter. Now let's just see how soft this is. It's not bad, but I'm just going to pop this into the microwave just literally for a few seconds. I just want that to be a little bit softer. Okay, so that's lovely and soft, that butter now. So into the butter I'm going to add 200 grams of icing sugar, and I'm going to do this with a spoon because it's very powdery and it can just go everywhere if you tend to sort of just pile it in. So 200 grams. And again, you can sieve this if you want to, but really I don't find it necessary, especially with icing sugar. I just don't find it necessary to sieve it, and that just causes more clouds of dust. Not even dust, you know what I mean. There we go. 202 will live with that. Now, we need to kind of beat these two together. Now, the thing is, this is a much lower proportion of butter to icing sugar than we would normally have with a sort of traditional buttercream. So if I go straight in with the beaters into that, you'll find that it just probably will never come together into a cream because there's just not enough butter. So what I do to start this off is I'm just going to add to this, I'm just going to add a little splash of milk, only a bit, just a little splash. And then again, I'm going to go in with my fork and just get it started like we did before. But adding that little bit of milk will just give us just enough sort of moisture to bring the mixture together. So go steady with this, just to avoid again all of the clouds of icing sugar. And just keep going until you've got more of a kind of rubble texture. You can see it coming together now. See, that's way better.
And even when we go in with the beaters, it is going to produce a very stiff mixture, but that's as it should be. So that's fine now, I know, to go in with the beaters. So again, I'm just going to make sure I've got all of that butter off because it's not a huge amount of butter. And now I'm going to go in with my beaters and give that a really good mix. At this stage, you can't overmix it. You can't overbeat it, so there's no worries at this point to go in and give it a nice beat for probably 3-4 minutes, something like that. So there we go, you can see it is a really stiff mixture of just the butter and the icing sugar. Okay, so now we need to add in the cream cheese. Now this is the way that I do it. You can actually use a balloon whisk for this if you want to, but I actually just use one of the beaters from my mixer. So I'm just going to pop my bowl back on my scales, and then I'm going to bring in the cream cheese. And I want about 100 grams. And this is cold from the fridge. 103, that's fine. So now I'm just going to mix that through just using the beater. And I find that doing it this way, it's a way more gentle mixing. And we avoid that possibility of it going runny. And you will feel it slacken off. It's really peculiar. You know, it was very stiff, this mixture, and as soon as you put that cream cheese in, you will feel it immediately slacken off. And it worries me, you know, that it's still going to go runny. So I just go really gentle until you can see that it's gone smooth. You can still see it looks a bit lumpy, and that's the cold cream cheese. So just keep going really gentle until it's nice and smooth. Just takes a minute or two. We're nearly there. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to risk it going runny, and that's fine, that's perfect. You can see it's still nice and firm and perfect for spreading. It's time to decorate those delicious cupcakes. First thing to do is to pop some of our cream cheese frosting onto the top of each of the cupcakes. So I'm going to grab a teaspoon, and you can see at this stage it is quite sort of not runny, but it's got some movement in it, the frosting. But what we're going to do before we actually eat these is just pop them into the fridge, and that really firms up that topping and makes them, you know, much easier to eat. And I think they actually taste better once they've had a little bit of a chill in the fridge. So just go around. You could pipe these, but as always, I prefer the kind of handmade, a little bit rustic look. And if you've got any edible glitter in your store cupboards, a little bit of edible glitter mixed in with the biscuit crumbs, I think would be fabulous. Sadly, I've not got any. Now I've just thought of that, and I really want to put glitter on them. But somebody out there, I'm sure, will have some. Okay, so we've got our lovely iced cupcakes. So now it's time to just put the little flourish on top. And this is the thing that makes them taste, really, for me, just like a strawberry cheesecake. So I've got a plate here because this does, your biscuit crumbs tend to go everywhere. So I'm going to pop each one on a plate as I do them, and then back over to the rack. So I've got my biscuit crumbs here. I'm going to take about a teaspoon and just pile it basically on top of the cream cheese. It will stick, but as you can see, you'll get quite a lot of tumbling bits of crumbs. And then as a final added touch, I've just got a little chunk of strawberry, which I'm just going to pop on top and back over. And so next one. And again, this is brilliant. You know, children will love doing this, I'm sure. And I'm sure they would also help you eat all of these little crumbs that fall on the plate. And that strawberry, I think, just tells anybody who doesn't know what the cupcake is, it just says, ooh, this might be strawberry flavoured.
So I'm just going to keep going until I've done all of them. Okay, so there we go. That's the final pudding club for this year. But don't be sad, we will be back as always, and until then you've got all of this year's, you've got all of last year's to go back and revisit and make if you want to. But for now, we've got to taste this delicious strawberry cheesecake cupcake. Absolutely yummy. And as I said before, just pop them in the fridge, even if it's only for half an hour, and it'll just firm up that topping, makes them absolutely beautiful. So here we go, I've got a bit of everything. They're absolutely delicious. It makes you think. Your brain's thinking, am I eating, it's cheesecake. No, hang on a minute, there's some sponge. You get that kind of what am I eating sensation. It's absolutely yummy. And I think everybody would love these. Children would love these. You know, the older sort of generation in your family, I'm sure would love them. They're lovely and sweet and a real treat, I think. And just as we get into the end of summer, just to use up those strawberries, I think is a fantastic thing. So there we go. It's delicious. I love it. And I will see you back next year for more. They're absolutely delicious.
So that's it.
Delicious.
And wow, yes, delicious. Tell me about it. They're gorgeous. So gorgeous, in fact, that there is one left, as we said.
Just the one.
Of 2 batches. Just the one, Mrs. Wembley. Now, you know what that means, don't you? If the season of Pudding Club is finished, it means it's time for you to vote for your favourite. And if you follow the link in the show notes below, you can go and do exactly that. Because we'd be delighted to know which one you liked best. And we will announce the winner in our Christmas special. So you have until the end of the year to let us know which one you like the most. I know which one I like the most, and when I remind Kay of all the cakes she's cooked, I'm sure you'll be able to pick the one that you like the most.
I know, I can't, at the moment, I couldn't say which. I get confused as to which season I've made what in.
But what we won't do is we won't tell you what our favourites are, because that might make the vote biased.
Yes, it might persuade you.
And we don't want that.
No.
Oh no. But also, if the Bakery Best Pudding Club is finished, you know what that means too. It means it's time for the first time ever in the history of the Bakery Bears. Of course, we did Favourite Place to Knit. We did New Adventure. Well, we do New Adventures of the Bakery Bears. And historically, the way those shows have run is there's been one and then something in the middle and then one. Yeah. Well, for the next 4 episodes, you're going to get back-to-back Walking the Dales.
Wow.
I suspect I'm going to need a very long lie down at the end of this run of shows.
Me.
It's because you absolutely bailed us out, as we said, in March and did back-to-back pudding clubs. And the payoff is back-to-back Walking the Dales. Yes. So you can put your feet up.
At least the weather's a bit cooler.
Yes, absolutely. And as we've established now with my wonderful hat and with my rather lovely jacket, because I've already been walking in the wind and the rain, we're away. Yeah. It's true, last time. I mean,
that's true.
The wind was insane.
Yeah.
And the mics were still working great, which was wonderful. So back-to-back Walking the Dales, and we've got some absolutely tremendous walks. The next one, we're going to a place which has national importance, and I knew nothing about this place until recently. It's really not far away at all, and I can't wait to show it to you.
I don't know what that is, do I?
No, you don't.
Oh, right.
Because I haven't told you. And I'm not going to tell you. You're going to see.
Okay.
Because you like seeing.
You won't tell me.
You said to me that you like.
Nicely.
Of course I'll tell you. It's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, our favourite pop show of the year is coming up on Sunday at 2 p.m.
Yep.
British Summer Time. The
Yeah.
link to the show will be available to all patrons who are eligible to watch it live at 1:30 p.m. BST, and you've got half an hour to chat in the forum before we then come and join you and broadcast on. Why is it our favourite show? Because it's our official Goodbye Summer and Hello Autumn show.
Yes.
We'll be talking about all our autumnal plans for our lovely knitting projects, and my goodness, do I have something amazing to show you, because
yes.
my new show began yesterday.
Did it?
The Self-Contained Knitter. Over the last 2 years, I've tried my best to master the art of garment knitting. But now it's time for me to get serious and go it alone. So I've got myself the perfect wool to make a traditional Icelandic sweater. And for the first time ever, I'll be knitting this garment for me. So get ready for a wild ride as I attempt to become the self-contained knitter. With new music from my wonderful brother, it's like a 1970s heist movie.
Oh, it's really good. I heard it, didn't I, when you were doing it?
Yes.
It's brilliant.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
So on that show, I showed you my latest cast on. I have actually been knitting on it in today's show. I'll be talking about it much more at length because I'm very excited about this project in the P.O.P show. And the next time we see you here on the video show, I'll have knit a little bit of this and it'll be worth showing.
Yeah, you've only just cast it.
I have, but I've got lots to say about it already.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It is.
Neil, the knit-along is going well,
Yes,
isn't it?
we've got a knit-along that's just not far away from finishing. It's the Magically Enchanted sock knit-along. We've currently got around about 160 finished items in the FO thread. So, and you've still got a few days. It ends on the 31st of August, so I'll close the thread on the 1st of September, just to make sure that we've gone through all of the midnight time zones. You know, I'll make sure that that's, you know, that nobody's losing out, because depending on where you live. And then we'll draw for prizes for that on the next podcast. So you've still got time to finish your socks up. You've still got a few days if you want to get those posted in the FO thread. And the prizes for this knit along, I've showed you right at the beginning, but I'll just remind you, it's some of my own hand-dyed yarn. We've got 2 sets of the Cinderella inspired yarn, one sparkly, one non-sparkly. There's 2 sets of the strawberry yarn that I used for the shorty socks that I knit. And actually the strawberry socks I gave to Bryony this morning. She was absolutely thrilled. I like to, I stash away socks, and I've got quite a big pile sort of mounting up for Bryony's birthday and Christmas. And just randomly, I'll pick out a pair and I'll just give her a pair of socks. And I thought, today I'm going to, because, we're coming to an end with summer and she loves strawberries. So I thought, I'm going to give her those socks. She was so thrilled.
Okay.
She was absolutely thrilled. And she just went, they're for me. And it's so thrilling, and it's lovely that she loves wearing her hand knit socks. Yeah, so I gave her those this morning. So there's 2 sets of those.
It's a prime, though, example of once you go across to hand knit socks, you will never go back.
She doesn't wear any other socks at all.
I tried wearing some manufactured socks once during the summer. Supposedly some thin, really soft. I was warmer wearing those
than
wearing the wool socks.
Yeah.
Crazy.
She wears for school, she just wears normal grey school socks, because they have to do that. But otherwise, she always wears hand knit socks. And actually, when she sort of FaceTimes her best friend every day, and her best friend noticed some socks that she was wearing yesterday, the Cinderella ones actually. She said, they're nice socks. And she was telling her friend all about her mum that knits her all these socks. I thought that was really sweet. Not a normal sort of teenage thing to do, is it? So I thought that was lovely. And then one more skein is the Fairy Wings. I love this colour. Oh, it's so pretty. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 prizes there. And, like I said, there's about 149, I think I said 160, sorry, there's 149 entries currently. So you do stand a good chance, of winning one of these. So get your entries in. If if you've almost finished that pair of socks, power through, get them into that thread, and then we will announce prizes on the next podcast.
Cool.
the last thing is I have bought a little bit of yarn, and it was inspired by my Knit Picks Felici cast on. And I saw someone on Instagram had mentioned recently that they brought out a new range of colours. Now, Knit Picks, you used to be able to buy Knit Picks in the UK from their website, and they dealt with all of the shipping and taxes and everything. I don't think you can do that anymore. I went onto their website recently, and normally it pops up and it says, "Are you in the UK?" and you click yes, and then it knows that that's where you are. But I don't think they do that anymore. I mean, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but there is one company that I know of in the UK that stocks Felici, and it's called Great British Yarns. And I noticed someone had just bought some recently from there, so I thought, I'm going to go and have a look. And I bought 4 different colours because I do like to have these stashed away, because the thing with Felici is once that range of colours is sold out, that's it. They just then do another range after that. So you do have to grab them when you see them. So I thought, right, I'll go and have a look and see what they've got. So I got 2 skeins of each of these, but I just picked the ones that I thought were prettiest. I've got this one called Carrot Cake, which is quite an unusual one because it looks like you've got a cream stripe in between those other colours. So I think that should be really pretty. This one I thought looked like Christmas, but it's actually called Dragon Boat. I think it's based on those, is it Chinese? Those, the big boats that they bring out in celebrations with dragons on the front. But I thought that looked Christmassy. And then the last one, I got this one because I was thinking of Bryony, and it's Vampire Vibes, because she does love a vampire. So they're really lovely. So if you're in the UK, go and have a look on Great British Yarns if you want to grab a few skeins of those.
Cool. That's it. Folks, thank you so much for watching. It's been great to see you.
Yes.
Take care of yourselves.
Yes.
And we will see you, unless, of course, we're going to see you on Sunday.
Absolutely.
For the P.O.P show.
On P.O.P, yeah.
We will see you in 2 weeks for more.
Yes.
Bye.
See you soon, everyone.
Enthusiasm's not quitting for Ben and Kate the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a shawl you'll want to wear. So sit yourself right down and watch Dan and Kate